Well, hello there, guys and gals. Welcome to Miyagi Mornings, episode 83. Sometimes I'm not sure what the episode number is, but since I looked at my notes today, it is 83. We have a question today that really is more of an observation that is definitely a plea for help. This is another crypto topic. This will be a briefer one than yesterday, and I'll just say, if you were following me on MeWe, you would have got a chance to vote on this today. So if you're like, damn it, Jack, I don't want two crypto topics in a row. Well, follow me on MeWe. The vote was overwhelming for this one. And when I tell you what it is, if you do crypto at all, you'll probably understand why. It's avoiding high Bitcoin fees when transferring specifically between exchanges. If you're moving Bitcoin from an exchange to like a non-custodial wallet where you don't have swap capabilities or whatever, you're going to eat the fee. That's part of taking custody of Bitcoin. However, there's a lot of this going on, specifically since I've been recommending, like saying you need to buy our pirate chain since October when it was 8 cents. And I'm not saying you need to buy it now. I'm saying it's probably still a good buy now, but it's made of like 3,000% run up. And it was one of the very few times in the history of me talking about this since 2014 where I didn't say, hey, might be something you want to look at, or I'm buying this, or like, it's very unusual for me to say, you need to buy this. But I did with that, and it created a lot of people wanting to buy it. And it's also, I think, the whole crypto space expanding this year has made people look at things like proof-of-stake coins, etc. And maybe wherever they're onboarding, in other words, they're bringing fiat in, dollars, and they're exchanging it for a thing, like the first thing they end up buying is Bitcoin. And then let's use R as a perfect example. So let's say that you want to buy R on Trade Ogre, or you want to buy R on CoinEx, or you want to buy R on Changely, but your onboard platform is Coinbase. And so you go to Coinbase, you buy like $100 worth of Bitcoin, and then you send it over to CoinEx, and you notice that like it costs you $9 or $10. Now, if you send $5,000 and it costs you $9, it's not really that big of an eat into what you're doing. But especially with these smaller transactions, sometimes with high network volume, these fees can really kind of ding you. Now, there are a lot of people out there saying a lot of stupid shit, and I think you people need to shut your mouth because clearly you're speaking in ignorance. Like, it costs $105 to send $5 worth of Bitcoin. I don't know where you get your bullshit from, but send it back. But when you're paying 10% on a transfer, and you don't always, but you might, depending on what's going on at the moment, and then compounding this problem when you're sending money from Coinbase somewhere else, you don't get to say, like, look, I don't give a shit if this takes all day to happen. I want to pay the lowest fee available today. You get whatever they decide to do it at, which is generally market rate, which is going to be a bit higher. So I've received payments, for instance, for MSB, $100 for 3 years in Bitcoin, and when I get my $100, right? Or if Bitcoin goes up or down, I get a little more, a little less in the interim. But I can look at the transaction, see the fees like $8, $9, and that's a premium of like 10%. I don't like seeing people have to do that, and I don't think for small payments, Bitcoin is really the way to go. It's also not the way to go when you're transferring. So let's walk through this, how you would reduce your fees. And if you saw the graphic, the thumbnail for this video, it says don't trip over Bitcoin to pick up Satoshis, which is the old saying of don't step over dollars to pick up pennies. In other words, don't think you're getting around something by making less trades because of trading fees. Trading fees are incredibly cheap. So let's say you have Bitcoin, a couple $100 worth of Bitcoin, and you want to buy R on CoinEx. What most people do is send the Bitcoin to CoinEx and then buy R with the Bitcoin. Don't do that. That's the most expensive way to do things. Pick a coin that you know is on the exchange you're targeting. Litecoin and Algo are two great coins to do that with, but no matter what, make sure that before you execute that trade, so you don't have to do another trade, make sure that that coin is on the target exchange, and make sure whatever the minimum deposit is, we'll come back to that in a second, you're going to meet that minimum deposit for that coin. It tends to vary by different coins. Some require, if it's a cheap coin, maybe 1. Some require 0.01. Some require 0.001. It all depends. So make sure you read the print. So go like you're going to do the deposit and see what the minimum deposit is, calculate, make sure you have enough. Okay, so then you basically sell your Bitcoin into, let's say, Algorand, which is very cheap and very fast to do. As soon as it's available in your Coinbase account, you go over to CoinEx, you hit deposit, Algorand, you get an address, and you put that address into Coinbase. You now pay something like a penny to 10 cents in transfer fees. Yes, you created an additional trade. Yes, you paid a trading fee. That trading fee will absolutely be less than the transfer fee of Bitcoin. It's one of the more expensive cryptos to transfer right now. When your Algorand arrives over on CoinEx, you will find that you can't just swap Algorand into, let's say, Pirate Chain, right? You can't. Okay, it's fine. It's okay. Sell it for US dollar Tether. You'll find that over there they have 3 boards, primary boards. You can do buy with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tether. Why Tether? Because if you want to do something that you probably should, which is set a limit order, it's going to be much easier to calculate in your brain with it priced in dollars than in Bitcoin. Okay? So let's say that R is trading for $5.15 and you think it's going to drop to $4.90 today. So that's how you want to do your buy, because you want to get as much as you can. Now, you're fully can do a market order, and then it doesn't really matter if you use Bitcoin, Tether, or Ether. As long, again, check the board before you swap into that currency to make sure that that currency trades on that board. Sometimes you'll find a currency on an exchange only trades on like the Bitcoin board, or only trades on the dollar and Bitcoin board. It doesn't trade on the Ether board. So I don't know why you'd use Ether for this anyway. So you've done that now. You now have your currency in US dollar Tether. You can either directly just market buy whatever it's selling for, or you can set a limit order, and it's much easier to calculate with one side of the trade moving. What a limit order means is I'm willing to pay this much. So I'm willing to pay $5, and it's currently trading $5.15. So when you send that order, you know what's going to happen? Nothing. Close your computer, and if you want to do this, you need patience. You close your computer and walk away for at least a day. And is it worth doing? It depends. How much are you buying? How many? They can calculate it. How many more? Like if you're going to get 3 more out of doing this, maybe it's not worth it. If you're looking to hold long, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. But doing this over time, you can end up accumulating a lot more in that treasure chest. Once the trade executes and the trade clears, those are 2 different things. So you'll see trade executed. When you go to withdraw, it'll say withdrawable amount 0. Well, until enough confirmations come through, they're not going to let you take that money out. That prevents double spending. And then you can withdraw to your off-exchange wallet. What you've done now, going through it again really quick, you've gone to Coinbase, you have your Bitcoin that you've purchased for cash, you've converted it into something like Litecoin or Algo, you've sent it over to the other exchange, you've converted that into a fungible exchange asset, either Bitcoin or dollar Tether. And if you're just doing a straight exchange, it doesn't really matter, right? If you're going to do market, it doesn't really matter. If you're going to do a limit order, use Tether, it'll be easier to manage. Then you've bought your final target currency and you've moved it off. You've made 1 extra trade here. That 1 extra trade, probably on a small order, has saved you somewhere in the neighborhood of $8 to $10. If you're buying a low-priced altcoin that's like at around $1, right? That's 8 to 10 additional coins. If that coin makes a big run-up like you're anticipating, that could be a big deal. If you're buying something like R, back when it was, let's say, a dime, every dollar is 10 more units. You see how that works? So this is why I say don't trip over Bitcoin to pick up Satoshis. In your mind, well, I got to pay this extra trading fee. What costs you less in the long run? Or Spirico's law of life, always be frugal, never be cheap. Couple things to think about additionally here before we wrap this one up. Number 1, again, all exchanges will have a minimum deposit for each currency. Some have a minimum straight, like US dollar value, at least $50. Some of them will say, this currency you have to deposit at least 0.1 or 1.0 or whatever. Make sure that you've met that amount. However, there is a remedy that doesn't always, but I know has worked for others when they've made this mistake. However, when you try to employ the remedy, make sure when you do it, that one will meet the minimum deposit. Don't try to make the 2 meet together. So I've seen people say, well, I had a minimum deposit on CoinEx, and I sent it over, and it says it's gone. And what they ended up doing was making another deposit, very important here, to the same address. because some exchanges will let you pick a new address every time you make a new deposit, which is generally a good security practice, okay? So we don't consolidate everything we're doing to one address on a public blockchain. That's why we do that. However, let's say that your minimum deposit was, I don't know, but let's say it was $40. And for some reason you try to put $30 in. And so now it's not showing up, it's not there. You sent it to that address. It's gone there. It is there. It's just they don't want to deal with it, right? Because they have said they make their money on fees, and if you're too low, they make no money on your trading. They're not doing this because they like you. Like exchanges provide a service, right? You have to not think like a freaking woke child that believes that everything should be done for you. They provide you a service. They have to make a profit, or they can't afford to provide you the service. So they have a minimum. Basically, think of it as like a minimum buy. Like some place will say, we sell this thing for $5, but you got to buy 10 of them. Nobody loses their shit about that, right? Okay, so if you make a second deposit exceeding the threshold, you'll probably get your original deposit back. Several people in our group on we have done that and have had that work out. Next, when people hear multiple trades, they start thinking taxation. And you should. But in this case, it kind of works for you because you're going to lose a little bit of money. So now you've gone to Coinbase, you've bought $200 worth of Bitcoin. You ended up getting, let's say, 198 because fees. So you just lost $2. You make the trade, maybe you lose another $1. And by the time you execute the whole thing, maybe you're down $3, $4. That's what it costs you to get into this other coin that doesn't happen to be on Coinbase. You know what you do? Go ahead and report it. Go ahead and report it. They don't ask for like wallet numbers, account numbers, access. They just want to know, like, what did you do? I lost $4. Capital loss. So that leads me to my next strategy. I'm all about not paying any taxes you don't have to pay. I also think not paying taxes on money that can easily be tracked is stupid. And it results in you being very unhappy and possibly sent to Club Fed. But if nothing else, having like your money garnished, your bank account seized. Like what the IRS can do is it's criminal, but they can. So there are times when maybe you've done something like I did, which I kind of feel a little foolish about, but not really now, which is I sold some cryptocurrency last year to buy my badass sports car because I wanted one. Now, if I do the math, I don't want to think about how much a car really cost me now that I sold that crypto, but it was crypto that was available to be sold. Now to do that, since Dodge would not take Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything like that, I had to convert to fiat, wire it to my bank account, and then write them a check. That's a paper trail. You do not report that. They will eventually find you, and then they're going to subpoena your records from any place they can find you with KYC. Then they're going to audit your bank account. They're going to look for deposits and withdrawals, etc., right? So you don't want that rubber-handed glove up your ass. So you report that. However, toward the end of the year, I looked at a position I was holding in Litecoin and going, because I made a bad buy on that, it's a loss right now. I wonder. I can lose like $3,000 if I sell my Litecoin right now. And then I looked at the correlation between Litecoin and Bitcoin being 98%. Meaning if you look at the two of them historically, they track within 98% of each other. And thinking long term, I was like, I'd rather be holding this money in Bitcoin anyway. So it was about $7,000 of Litecoin that I paid about $10,000 for. So what did I do? I deposited my Litecoin on Coinbase, where it's completely public and I can show transaction records if I'm questioned about it, right? I sold it, but I didn't actually sell it. I converted it. I converted it from Litecoin into Bitcoin. But Litecoin's done really well. Don't trip over Bitcoins to pick up Satoshis. Bitcoin actually did better. It actually did better. I would have been fine with it doing about the same, but it actually did better since the time I made the trade. So what happened was now I have an offsetting loss on some of my gains. That reduced my total capital gains tax on the trades that I had to report and pay taxes on. And all I did was move from one asset to another, but since the government says you can't do like-kind exchanges, you've realized a profit or a loss, I strategically realized the loss, reduced the amount of money those bastards get to steal from me, and I didn't do it illegally or nefariously. What did I tell you yesterday? The tax code is 5% what you have to do and 95% how you get out of doing it. They wrote the code. It is far easier to avoid taxation legally than to do it illegally. Go look at the graphic from yesterday's video. That would be episode 82 of Miyagi Mornings. And you'll see that I used a picture of the entire United States tax code in 2 giant volumes that are like, if you're old enough to remember, each of those volumes is bigger than like the phone book with yellow pages for a major metropolitan area. It's massive, and it's, if you've ever looked at it, it's really fine print. Now, think about this. It doesn't take very much to tell you, hey, if you make X amount of money, you got to pay Y% in taxes. These are the things that are taxable, and this is the way it works, right? It doesn't take very much. You could have a book. It would probably be about like this right here. This Baker Creek seed catalog, for those watching the video. This would probably be easily the entire tax code that tells you what you must pay. What do you think the rest of it is for? The rest of it is for the oligarchs, the technocrats, and the lobbyists that wrote the damn thing and handed it to Congress and said, this shall be the way you do things if you'd like a contribution to your PAC or your super PAC or whatever, to get out of it. So I just suggest you use the blueprint they gave you. Most people will never do this because they don't have capital gains in any significant way. They're not doing this type of thing. All they have is a financial advisor that sends them a statement. They don't really know, and so they get a little bit of offsetting gain or loss, but nobody's strategically thinking that way. The other side of it is they don't own a business. You need to own a business, and you don't need to own a business so you can lose money. That's another thing. This is probably another episode, but I just want to finish with this. You don't go into business to lose money. You go into business to make money. But you go into business to convert much of your cash outflow from living expense to business expense, to reduce your tax burden. That's one reason you go into business. That's an advantage of being in business. And it's people that think this way that are going to succeed in this world of things that are coming. And I just kind of wanted to point that out for you. There's a lot of advantages out there for people that know how to focus on the 95%. That wraps up today's episode. Yes, it was 2 crypto episodes in a row. Yeah, it went longer than I planned on it going. But tomorrow and the next day, I promise we won't talk about cryptocurrency at all. Catch you on the next episode.